Okay, everyone, we are now live. Mayor Burley, I will pass it over to you. Dwight, you are muted.
Yeah, that's better. Welcome, everybody. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll call?
Absolutely. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
Present.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
I'm here.
Councillor Ryan Thompson. Councillor Ryan Thompson.
Yeah, right on. All right, I don't want to cut you off, Tim. I don't want to cut you off, but I got a council meeting to go to, and I'll give you a show tonight. All right, thanks, Tim.
Oh my God. Councillor Ryan Thompson, are you present? Okay, Councillor Grant Pringle.
Present.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
Present.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, Councillor Paul Sutherland and Councillor Ryan Thompson are currently absent.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Is there any add-ons to the agenda?
I have two, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Coburn, go ahead.
These are two separate items that will be in closed session, and they're both in regards to identifiable individuals. And I would ask that the acting clerk and interim CAO remain in attendance only, other than council members.
Thank you. Do you have any other items to add to the agenda?
I have a request just for an update, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor, but I could not hear you.
Well, my mic says it's on. I would just like an update on any discussions that are ongoing that council should know about.
Okay. Is there any other items to be added to the agenda? Seeing none? Would somebody like to move the motion to accept the agenda?
Grant.
Also move.
Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by Councillor Thompson. Welcome, Councillor Thompson. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against approval of the agenda as amended with the noted additions. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
And that carries.
Thank you. If there is any declaration of pecuniary interest, you can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting. We'll move on to our agenda. That the minutes of the special electronic council meeting held on April 22nd, 2020 be adopted. Do I somebody to move the motion, please?
Also move.
I can
Moved by
second.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Coburn. Brittany, would you take the vote, please? Oh, is there any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adoption of the April 22nd, 2020 special council meeting. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland. Oh, he's absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
I'm for.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay. We have no announcements, no public hearings, no presentations, no delegations. We are down to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the list that council would like pulled for further discussion?
I have a question about the library board. I don't know if it needs to be pulled though or not.
Yes, it does. If you're going to want to ask a question, yes.
Okay, then I'd like it pulled. Yep.
I point out to council that the accounts are on this consent agenda, so if there's any questions on accounts. Seeing none, Brittany, we have one item to be pulled. Somebody to move the motion, please.
I will so move that motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by
Grant.
Councilor Pringle. Is there's no further discussion on the motion? Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Absolutely. So I will just note that the motion reads that Council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs adopt the consent agenda as circulated, less items 9.3.1, and that staff be directed to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
Apologies. 4.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay. Now we'll deal with the item that was pulled, 9.3.1. Deputy Mayor Carlton, your question.
My question relates to in the minutes for the library board. It looks like they are meeting in person and that they were having another meeting April 30th, also in person. I guess I'm rather surprised by that. I'm wondering if Councillor Thompson has an answer for that.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't. Unfortunately, the committee met on April 8th during one of our meetings, so I was unable to attend. And then we met last week due to and due to an emergency, I wasn't able to make it. So I have made a call to find out about the next meeting, and I can come back with some information for you. I noticed as well that our meeting was scheduled in person for last week.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Thompson. Deputy Mayor Carlton, does that answer your question for now?
Yes, it does, and thank you.
Okay, so moving off our agenda, we're down to correspondence. We have two items, Aqua COVID-19 update. Tyler, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor Burley. This is fairly straightforward. We're in good hands with Aqua, as I feel right now. There has been some new regulations the government has put forward, just in case scenarios of COVID outbreak. This is just a letter referencing, saying they're prepared, and we haven't had to go into any contingencies. It's a letter of reassurance, if you ask me.
Thanks, Tyler. Is there any questions on this piece of correspondence? Hearing none, we'll move on with the William Goldie road maintenance request. Tyler, you want to speak to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Burley. This is more of a two-part email. One, thanking staff for their existing contributions, keeping the dust down. But number two, the frustration with ongoing dust. As operations, we're in the process of right now of selecting our roads for surface treatment this year in 2020. So we intend to add this rather small length of road to our assessment area and make considerations from there. I don't necessarily feel this requires a report to council at this time, although I am open to it. This is part of our yearly maintenance, if you will, on surface treatment. So I guess I wait your direction on that.
Tyler, is it the intent you were going to put it on our road list that it will be done?
No, my intent right now is to put it on the list to be reviewed this year. So we have a significant list in our 2020 capital budget. So I'm saying we're adding it to the selection process, but until we go out to the site to actually verify the roads that will be done this year, I'm not going to confirm that right now. I'm adding it to the selection criteria, I guess is what it is.
Thank you. So Tyler, will you respond to Mr. Goldie with that information?
Yes, 100%.
Okay. Does council have any questions on the correspondence?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Councillor Barfoot.
Okay, this is just a question regarding the wish list for the operations department this year. When will that be made known to council? Because there were some projects that were started last year with the, I'm going to say promise or comments being made that maybe it was the first part of a two-part project. I would just like to know, since we're foregoing our roads committee roads tour, I think council has the right to know what are the projects that are planned for this year.
A good question, Councillor Barfoot, and I'll let Tyler respond to that.
Councillor Barfoot, that was an excellent question. So the roads are outlined in our capital 2020 budget for operations. Again, for the selection process that has been put forward in the past is basically we put them in a grouping and then we fine tune them to the roads that need them most. I'm not sure which project in particular you're referring to that we started last year and moving forward to this year. I'd be happy to address that question head on if I can, if you want to add a little bit more detail to that one.
Tyler, I think it was the one I think Councillor Barfoot is referring to is the Orchard View Drive.
Oh, yes. Yep, so that has been included in our 2020 capital budget. I believe it was $45,000 for that. We've reached out to our Duncor, who was our surface treatment contractor last year, and they've confirmed that they will be carrying the same cost forward this year. As for right now, this is we're getting everything put into place, but I don't expect they'll be here for another month to another month and a half to actually mobilize. And again, we're waiting to hear back from them on their precautions, or rather policies on their COVID measures. That's part of our criteria now as well. Moving forward, we have to make sure the contractors are competent in their own work when it comes to COVID.
Councillor Barfoot, sorry to cut you off, but was that the road you're referring to?
Well, yes, I have this is only a question. It's not a directive. I want to be very clear on that. Yeah, I had the opportunity to take a drive back there and it sort of come to a standstill. And I wondered, I just wanted more information. As I said, I want to make it very clear. It's not a directive. It's just that when we get a call from ratepayers, it's nice to know what's in the works.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There was a report that went to council last year. Actually, I think it's on my desk. It explains that the surface treatment was actually planned 2020 work. It's great when it comes to designing and building a road to let that road settle out. We obviously installed a whole bunch of geotextile fabric and a bunch of culverts. So to give it a year to settle and then to go back and put your top coat over is a preferred construction technique. But yes, we're definitely going to be doing that road this year. There's no question on that one.
Thank you very
much. Thank you.
No problem.
If there's no more questions on the correspondence, it's just for information. We'll move on to our agenda. We've no committee reports. We're down to staff reports. The first one is from for the impact of COVID-19. That the report from Cassie Rock, Director of Finance, regarding the financial impact of COVID-19 be received for information. Do I have somebody to move to put it on the floor, please?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by
I'll second it.
Deputy Mayor Carlton. Discussion, Cassie, do you want to talk to the report?
Yes, please. Thank you, Dwight. So first of all, I just want to highlight that this is a preliminary report. These numbers are still changing as the COVID situation continues. So just to go through a few highlights. So firstly, the tax and water penalty and interest. We have delayed the tax due date and we've waived penalty and interest until June 1st. As the situation continues, we may bring back another report to council extending that, but we won't know. We're not making any decisions for another week or two. For arena rentals, we did have to close the Shaw Lake Arena sooner than expected, which resulted in lost ice rentals. We should see a savings in expenses there through hydro and water usage, but due to the timing of receiving those invoices, I can't quantify those expense savings at the moment. As for the use of our facilities in the summer, currently we are missing out on floor rentals at all three facilities, and I've estimated the impact in this report. Boat launch fees. We are not selling keys for the boat launches at this time as it is closed, but it's my hope that we'll be able to reopen those launches before the boating season is lost and we can gain back some of that revenue. Bag tags, this is an estimate as it's hard to quantify since we're still selling bag tags to real retailers, just not at the same rate. Probably won't see the full impact of this for another couple months, but just to give people a preliminary number, I came up with $40,000 based on previous monthly sales average. So overall, the financial impact estimated to date of COVID is about $92,000. So I'm hoping to find this money within our existing budget. To give council a few ideas of timelines, at our next council meeting on May 20th, I'm going to bring a report forward on the farm tax impact. So that was the change in the farm tax ratio that the county made, and what that impact is on the draft budget that was presented in January. Then in June, I plan on bringing forward our budget for discussion again. Our clerk, Brittany, has done a great job of setting up online ways of public participation, and she has developed a call-in line that we're going to test. So I'm hoping to bring the budget back in June. And in June as well, I'd like to bring another report firming up the COVID impact numbers. So again, this is just preliminary numbers to give council an idea of the effects of the measures we've put in place have on the bottom line. I'm open for questions.
Thanks, Cassie. Question from council.
I just have one quick question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Cassie, I know there's the deadline for finalizing and passing the budget every year. Is that an issue now? Has the province relaxed its timelines on that?
It's not an issue. We just need to have a budget passed and finalized before we send out our final tax bills, which is in August. So with the work that Brittany has been able to do to facilitate public engagement, I'm quite confident we can bring the budget back in June for discussion and for approval.
Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
4.
Counselor Paul Sutherland is absent. Counselor Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Counselor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Counselor Grant Pringle.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay, moving on with our next item is working from home policy. That the Council of Georgian Bluffs accept report working from home COVID-19 policy, and that the Council of Georgian Bluffs approves a working from home COVID-19 policy effective May 6, 2020, and that the working from home COVID-19 policy form Schedule D05 of Section D attendance in the existing Human Resources Policy Manual. Do I have someone to move it to put it on the floor, please?
I will move the motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by
Kathy?
Councillor Colburn. Crystal, do you wish to speak to the report?
Yes, please. So before, we never anticipated COVID-19, therefore the township did not have a working at home policy. We quickly had to make sure all of our staff had working at home capabilities as of March 24th, when all non-essential places were closed. So this mainly applies to our office staff because our roads and facilities department cannot really work from home. So I just need to make it clear that this policy is very dependent on each department. Some departments have great capabilities of working at home, others cannot. So what I've outlined is a policy that will be for everyone to sign, but has guidelines on health and safety, ergonomics, and just general conditions that we would like to see. So if they are constant communication with your supervisor, daily communication that way, they have plans of what they are doing. Any documents that they do take home with them are confidential. They are completely responsible of their equipment. So if anything happens in transition with that it would be the employee's responsibility. One of the big things is ergonomics when people are at home. We didn't have any. It was a quick fix on trying to get your home office set up. I work at my kitchen table. So I've included kind of an ergonomics of a chair setup, kind of a desk setup so that we could eliminate possibly future claims from WSIB in regard to ergonomics, and just kind of just general housekeeping, keeping in line with like our township policies when people work at home. We don't want you to have township meetings at your home. You would have those at the office, but right now there's hardly any of those as well. And then at the end of everything, that the supervisor and the employee must sign off on the agreement, and then that is held within the HR department as record. This is only for the pandemic period. We don't know how long this will be, so I don't have a tentative end date on that.
Thanks, Crystal. Council, have any questions or comments on the policy?
I do, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Colburn, go ahead.
Thank you, Crystal. I did note that that this policy is specific to pandemic. I wonder, in the past, has there ever been circumstances where staff have worked from home in other circumstances outside of the current pandemic situation? For example, during inclement weather?
We do not have, when we have inclement weather, we do not have people working at home. Unless a department has been specific with their employees, allowing them to work from home, I do not have anything in place for working at home prior to this, and there was nothing because we did not allow it. When we had inclement weather, there was just, please stay at home and be safe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I guess my comment is if in future we need to implement such a policy for reasons other than pandemic, does this particular working from home policy cover us in that event, or is it just specific to this current pandemic situation?
This one is just specific for the pandemic period. However, we will look at this once everything is over. We may need to have a working at home policy in place, but hopefully we don't need to. Personally, I don't want to work from home when this is over. I like to go to the office.
Yeah, I got it. Though I'm thinking of some people who do drive a distance to get into work, and I would just as soon have a work from home policy for those folks as make them perhaps feel some undue pressure to attend work if the weather is not safe to do so. But I appreciate this as a good first step, and I thank you for that, Crystal.
Thanks. Thanks, Councilor Coburn. We will have those discussions on that particular item a little bit later on, a little bit in the future. But it's a good point. We won't forget. Is there any other questions from council?
I have a comment.
Deputy Mayor Carlton.
When it comes to working from home in inclement weather, I guess my thought is the employee would almost have to have planned ahead for that, to have taken the correct equipment home with them. So I'm not thinking we would normally be having staff take their laptops or whatever home with them regularly. So it may still not be an issue at that point of them working from home during bad weather.
Deputy Mayor Carlton, thanks for your comments, but I really feel that we're just talking about a pandemic policy in place right now, and the discussions on whether we work at home policy and so on. I think it should take part at a future meeting.
Okay, agreed. Just a comment.
Thank you. If there's no other comments on this policy, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, I will. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, Emergency Management Program. That was CAO 2025 interim CEO regarding the updated emergency management program be received, and that the following bylaws be enacted further to the requirements of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act 1990 and Ontario Regulations 38004. Bylaw 2020-44 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency program including an emergency plan. Bylaw 2020-45 being a bylaw to appoint a committee, emergency management coordinator and alternates. And bylaw 2020-46 being a bylaw to establish an emergency management program committee and appoint members to said committee. And the staff are hereby directed to communicate the updates to the Township Emergency Management Program to Emergency Management Ontario. Do you have somebody to move, put it on the floor, please?
I will move that
Also
motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Thompson. Discussion on the motion before us.
I can provide that if you'd like, Mayor Burley.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Perfect. So just back in 2019, when the Township's emergency plan was sent for review from the Office of the Solicitor General, there was some discrepancies noted. The plan needed an emergency program, an emergency management program committee to be appointed by bylaw, and also a community emergency management coordinate and their alternates to be committed by, or to be appointed by bylaw. So basically what this report does is it provides the community management plan, management program, and in that program discusses the need for a coordinator. It talks about the roles of some of the people that would be on the emergency plan. the emergency program, and it talks about how the plan is reviewed, exercises that are provided on an annual basis, along with education that's provided on an annual basis. For the emergency control group, just so that there is a distinguishing factor between them, the emergency control group is the group that gets together when there is an actual emergency that has been declared, and that group then determines the best way to manage the emergency. And the Emergency Management Planning Committee, they act outside of when that emergency is. So, for instance, they would be ensuring that the plan is reviewed, that there's education around the plan, that there's an annual exercise, an annual review of the plan. So what this report is asking is just that the appropriate bylaws be put into place so that we can report back that we have met all the regulations needed for our emergency management plan for the township.
Thanks, Anne.
Be happy to answer any questions.
Any council member have any questions, please?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Coburn, go ahead.
Thanks, Anne Marie. I hope I'm understanding the difference between the two groups appropriately. I'm just wondering who from council does our, I'm not sure if it's a bylaw or a policy, state is representative from council on that emergency management committee.
So it would be the mayor that would be on the emergency management committee, along with the group too. So you're thinking of the management. So the emergency management planning committee, the mayor is the person that is assigned to that group, and along with the emergency control group, it would be the mayor and the deputy mayor as an alternate.
So when I was looking back at previous minutes and documents, I noted that Councillor Barfoot and Councillor Thompson were also two additional council members representing council along with the mayor of the day on that emergency management committee, I think it was. So I'm just wondering why we may have gone, and if I'm interpreting it correctly even, but why we would have gone from having the mayor and two other council members to just the mayor.
So we actually have never had an emergency management planning committee. That was something that we were lacking in our plan. We have an emergency control group. So we needed to formally put that forward. And these are the ones that we are recommending be on the planning committee. And again, it's just a couple of meetings throughout the year to discuss the plan. If council so wishes to put another councillor on the emergency management planning committee, then certainly they can. This is just our recommendations.
Anne-Marie, if I'm not mistaken, when we had our emergency plan exercise, which was a completely different thing, we did have alternate people that would go on that exercise. And I believe Councillor Barfoot and Councillor Thompson were added as people to sit on these exercise committees, if I remember correctly.
I don't have that past history, sorry, not being with the township for that long, but someone else may be able to answer that. Brittany, would you have that?
Yeah, if I can just interject here. The difficulty with past emergency management programs that we have had is that none of them have been formalized. So all we're doing here today is formalizing all of the requirements that we are required to enact by law. So I will note that exercises as well as emergency management program committee meetings are open to the public. Therefore, any member of council can attend and participate.
Thanks, Brittany. Is there any other discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
And thank you, that carries.
Moving on to our agenda, purchase of 2 emergency road closure trailers. That report OPS 2020-22 from Tyler Yonke, Director of Operations, be received, and that Council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs approves the purchases of 2 emergency road closure trailers from Cedar Signs at a cost of $10,634.38. Tyler, or someone to move, put it on the floor, please.
Carol Barfoot.
Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by
Kathy?
Councillor Colburn. Tyler, do you want to speak to your?
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor Burley. This is a planned purchase of our 2020 capital budget. I feel like I didn't choose my wording well when I tried to express that this is not to replace our older trailers, but to add to our fleet. It's happened too many times where we've had either an accident or 2 roads closed at the same time. This, of course, requires 4 sets of equipment. Although our other existing signs, they are aging, they're still functional, and they're still working. In fact, there's one at the Shell Lake Arena right now, and the other one is up at the Bruce Caves, again for the COVID measures. But and again, I think this is the first time anybody's ever included a YouTube link on the report as well. So it did give you a pretty good example of how the trailers work and just the benefits of them and the safety to the men. And again, I'd be open to any questions or comments.
Thanks, Tyler. Does council have any questions?
I would like to comment.
Deputy Mayor Carlton.
I'd just like to say thank you to Tyler for the report, quite clear. And yes, I did enjoy watching that on the YouTube video. It was a good explanation of something I didn't quite understand. So thanks for putting that in there.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, is there any other questions?
No.
Not. Madam Clerk, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay. Moving on, Emergency Control Group update. That report CA0-2026 from the interim CEO regarding an update from the Emergency Control Group we received for information. Brittany, will we need a motion if this is just for information?
Yes, we will need a mover and seconder to put it on the floor, please.
Thank you. Do I have somebody to move the motion, please?
I will move the motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by?
I'll second.
I believe that was Councillor Thompson. Is there any discussion? Or Anne-Marie, do you want to speak to this?
Sure, certainly I will, Mr. Mayor. These are just highlights from the Emergency Control Group for Georgian Bluffs, which met on April 29th, 2020. We did have discussion around the airport traffic and the number of movements at the airport. There is a significant decrease from this year in April compared to April of 2019. There has also been planes are stopping for fuel, basically. There is no staff involvement when planes are refueling, so there is no risk to staff. And staff at the airport have reported that plane has not parked overnight in a few weeks. So the group was just looking at the type of traffic that we were getting at the airport, and we'll continue to monitor the airport usage. Visitors to Georgian Bluffs, our chief building official reported that we were not getting complaints about seasonal residents or campers or short-time rentals at this time, but again, we will continue to monitor the situation. We will be looking into the May long weekend, and we will be hopefully looking at what messages public health and the province are going to regarding seasonal visitors. And if we feel the need that we need to release a statement, we can, or put something on our website, we can certainly do that. Enforcement, we are continuing to get calls about people not social distancing and whether or not a business is determined essential. And the Inner Township Fire Department has said that they are getting many inquiries, many a day, as to the provincially mandated fire ban, especially now that Meaford has lifted their ban this week. Our fire chief has stated that there has been an increase in calls. So those are just some of the highlights from our emergency control group meeting.
Anne-Marie, might I say that to our fire chief, he has put calls into our MPP to see if he can get better clarification why we cannot lift the fire ban in the 2 areas of Georgian Bluffs. Is that correct?
That is correct. He has not received a response back yet from the MPP's office.
Okay, and just so we know, Meaford was not under a provincial order. Is that correct?
That is correct. They were not under provincial order.
Yeah, just so council is aware, that's why they're able to lift their fire ban.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions on the motion before us? Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Absolutely. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
For. Oh, so.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Down to public question period. Madam Clerk, has there been any questions from the public?
There has not been any questions submitted.
Thank you. So we'll move on to our agenda. We're down to bylaws. Bylaw 2020-27. Whereas Council has given consideration to the written comments submitted by the agencies in the decision on proposed zoning bylaw amendment application Z0219 for Darrell Bolton for property located at 303495 Indian Acres Road West, and whereas Council has considered oral submissions made at the public meeting, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs is satisfied that the proposed amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2014 and other governing regulations, and that bylaw 2020-27 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, seal the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Would somebody to move the motion, please? Do I have somebody to move the motion, please?
Also move.
I will.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Coburn. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Graham Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay, our next bylaw 2020-28. Whereas Council has given consideration to the written comments submitted by the agencies in the decision on proposed zoning bylaw amendment application Z0220 for Paul Dixon for property located at 2022-42 Highway 21, and whereas council has considered oral submissions made at the public meeting, therefore be it resolved that Council of Township of Georgian Bluffs is satisfied that the proposed amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2014 and other governing regulations, and that bylaw 2020-28 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and sealed the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move the motion, please?
I will move the motion.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by
I'll second.
Councillor Thompson.
I'll
Is there
second.
any- Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Hearing
I just
nothing,
have a question regarding.
Councillor Barfoot, go ahead.
I just have a question. This is for Jen. Somewhere in all those planning documents, it indicated that he was not to be operating a business there until all this was through. Is that correct?
That is correct.
There's been a storage business there since last year.
And that's the reason why this application has come forward. We did receive notification and bylaw enforcement went out. And this is staff and Mr. Dixon bringing the property into compliance. So this bylaw will allow him to operate that storage business. And what it does is it limits any expansion potential. So those buildings that are on the site right now, that is the maximum space that can be used for the commercial storage facility. And the property is being rezoned to an M1, which is an industrial zone. However, all of the other uses permitted in that M1 zone are prohibited just because it's a property that fronts onto a provincial highway, and the review from the MTO didn't support any other industrial or commercial uses on that property. So they agreed to this storage facility, provided that it doesn't, there are no future expansion potential, and there's no other permitted uses on there.
That would include outside storage?
That's correct. So it's generally with commercial storage facility, it's all interior storage. There's no outside storage permitted.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Seeing no other questions on the motion, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Absolutely. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
We're down to other bylaws, bylaw 2020-43. That bylaw 2020-43 being a bylaw to authorize a consultant agreement with Wendy Hunter for services related to native land claim negotiations be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move the motion and put it on the floor, please?
Grant.
Moved by Councillor Pringle, second by
Ryan.
Councillor Thompson. Discussion on the motion before us.
I have a question,
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll go with Councillor Coburn first.
So I understand that we need someone in this role to represent us with these negotiations. Who would typically do that for a municipality? Would that be more someone along the lines of a legal consultant, or I just want to make sure we have proper representation and that it's as robust as it needs to be.
Thanks, Councillor Coburn. Anne-Marie, would you respond to that, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. So Wendy's role is to provide information to the solicitor that is working on behalf of Georgian Bluffs on the native land claim negotiations. Wendy also has a lot of history on this file, so she is able to provide the information that's required, and then also to bring a report back to council too. So she is able to provide that report from a consultant on the legal works that have been happening. And I believe there will be a report coming to the next council meeting.
And Anne-Marie, we do have 2 legal people that work on this case.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay.
So, sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I ask one other question?
Go ahead.
Is this something that we could currently assign to one of our employees that we have in-house already? Is this something that Jen, would this fall under her purview? Or I'm just looking for a way to get that job done without incurring extra costs with an external consultant.
Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, right now, Wendy was the one that had been working on it, and she is the only current staff here that has history on that profile or on that file. There is no other staff in the office that has the previous information or experience. So I believe when it was brought forward to council, that was council's wish was for her to continue on as a consultant. So that we ensure that the correct and timely information is provided to the solicitors. I also, just for clarification too, this is only until the end of December. It is, or before that, if the matter is ratified.
Anne-Marie, this is on a needs basis?
It is on a need basis only. It is to a maximum of 10 hours a month, unless there is special circumstances beyond that, and that would be okayed by the CAO.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr.
And so, sorry, one last comment, if I may. Sorry, Councillor Barfoot. I would hope that in the interim we have someone in-house looking to. I know Wendy has the history, but that's not to say that other folks can't review that information, be brought up to speed. I somehow get the feeling that it's going to continue likely on past December, and I would hope by then that would give us some time to do some effective succession planning.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Barfoot.
Okay, I just have a question. Now, this agreement only, and I don't have a problem with Wendy because she certainly has the history and the background on this. It's just last time she had to appear, there was another employee that went down with her. So does this include sending another employee, an employee of the municipality down to these hearings as well? Or is it just covering Wendy? I just want to be clear on that.
Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This agreement itself is just for Wendy. If an employee was asked to appear for questioning, trial, whatever that might be, then that would be separate from this agreement.
Well, I hope it's over by the end of the year, but I doubt it will be. It's gone on for years, so thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Barfoot. Is there any other questions on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Absolutely. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Moving along, our next bylaw, 2020-44. The bylaw 2020-44 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the Township of Georgian Bluffs, current to Section 2.1 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act 1990, CHED, as recommended, and Reg 38004 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please?
Carol Barfoot.
Moved by Councillor Barfoot. Second by.
I will second that.
Second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
He's not here.
Oh, he's absent. I'm sorry. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Two. The next bylaw 2020-45. The bylaw 2020-45 being a bylaw to adopt a community emergency management coordinator and alternates be read a first, second, third time, finally passed and signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please?
I will move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by.
Grant.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Pringle. Discussion on the motion before us. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Our next bylaw, the bylaw 2020-46 being a bylaw to establish an emergency management program committee and appoint members to said committee be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed of the corporation and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move the motion to put on the floor, please? Do I have somebody to move the motion?
I'll also move.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by
Grant.
Councillor Pringle. Discussion on the motion before us. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, you take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Moving on, our bylaw 2020-47. The bylaw 2020-47 being a bylaw to appoint a municipal law enforcement officer and property standards officer be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and sealed the corporation endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move the motion to put it on the floor, please?
Carol Barfoot.
Also move.
Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Councillor Thompson. Discussion on the motion before us. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. That's all our bylaws. We'll move on our agenda. Unfinished business. I see none. We're down to new business. Fueling the front lines, local volunteer initiatives. Brittany, you want to speak to this?
Yes, I can speak to this. So I was contacted by a few local residents that have started this initiative to serve our local community, including Georgian Bluffs and Owen Sound. So our currently only licensed food truck in Georgian Bluffs, being the Sandwiches food truck, has partnered with a couple local businesses to provide food services to frontline workers throughout the duration of the COVID pandemic. It's strictly a volunteer initiative. Just for council's information, we have offered the group the opportunity to park the truck on Township grounds at the SLCC parking lot, just to facilitate this volunteer program, not for normal business. So if you see the truck there, it's strictly just to prepare the meals for the volunteer initiative. We have received the proper liability insurance coverage just to ensure that the township is covered in all aspects. But otherwise, this is a great local initiative. I just wanted to make council aware of. If you have any questions, I can do my best to answer them.
Thanks, Brittany. Questions from council? See none. I think it's a great initiative. It's good to see that happening. So we'll move on then. Brittany, we'll move on.
Back up a minute, Mr. Mayor. What was the company name again?
Councilor Barfoot, go ahead.
What was the company name again?
So the food truck in Georgian Bluffs that is providing the service is the Sandwiches food truck. It is their first season in Georgian Bluffs.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Thanks, Brittany. So we'll move on with a verbal update from the CAO regarding township COVID-19 actions. Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of updates for council. On May 4th, as you're aware, the province did expand its list of businesses and sectors that could open, and so that did allow for some construction to start happening within the township. If they previously had a permit and already had footings in the ground, then they were able to start back up. Today, there were also a couple of announcements from the province. The childcare centers will remain closed until May 18th of 2020. That was extended another 2 weeks. I believe they were originally to open today or tomorrow. And also, as of today, there was an announcement that there are going to be further restrictions eased. As of May 8th at 12:01, garden centers and nurseries will be open for in-store payment and shopping. Hardware stores and safety supply stores will be open as of Saturday, May 9th. And as of May 11th, retail stores with street entrances can begin to offer curbside pickup and delivery. So I just wanted to point that out, that there will be some more businesses opening shortly this week. And that's all I have right now, unless council has any questions.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Does council have any questions? Seeing none? Okay, I'll move on to the agenda. Hopefully, Madam Clerk, I'll do this properly. I'm going to read a motion to go in camera first.
So, Dwight, if I can just interrupt you, Mr. Mayor. We had an addition from Carol Barfoot regarding an update regarding discussions had at the township.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead, Carol.
all the information we're getting is great, but are there any ongoing talks with potential partners in our airport? I have 2 or 3 airport questions. First of all, have other tenants come forward and asked for temporary relief in their rent? And okay, the businesses that rent space in the airport terminal, are they considered essential services, or why do they have to be coming and going? And my next question is, just generally, what meetings are going on that would be of interest to council? I feel like we're so much out of the loop under the present system.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, Councillor Barfoot. Anne-Marie, I'm going to let you comment first, and maybe Tyler.
Certainly. So I will leave it to Tyler as to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 2 businesses at the airport have come forward, and there are a few essential services that are at, I believe there's 2 businesses that are considered essential that do rent from the airport. And as for meetings, I know Brittany has been working very hard for us to get community input going. So once we are able to offer that, we will be scheduling a committee of adjustment meeting in June, and probably other meetings to follow just once we have figured out the public engagement aspect. There is also has been some regulations put out now around the Planning Act and public meetings. So we'll be coming to council at the next meeting with a report on how we're probably going to move forward with that too. So there will hopefully be more meetings available for council. Did I answer your questions, Carol or Councillor Barfoot?
Councillor Barfoot, we have suspended all conversations to do with the airport and the buyer adjuster. There's no dialogue of any kind going on behind the scenes. It's been put on hold until after the pandemic, until future. Tyler, any comments?
No, Anne-Marie covered that perfectly. As for operations and any ongoing conversations, I guess the only thing is our ability to modify our work tasks. It's the same as any other business that is run. We're under new regulations for social distancing, and it's challenging to provide the same level of service with these new regulations in place. But I feel like all staff are doing the best that they can, and we're moving forward with them.
Thanks, Tyler. Councillor Barfoot, did you get your question answered?
More or less. I just have a follow-up question. I noticed on one of our, I noticed on some correspondence we got, it said their next council meeting would be May the 20th at 7 o'clock. So are we going to that? Like, I just didn't quite understand that. Are we going to resume council meetings at the township on May the 20th, or was that wishful thinking?
Dwight, you are muted, but just to answer your question, Councillor Barfoot, our next meeting will be May 12th at 4:00 p.m. as per the motion we passed at the April 22nd meeting, amending our schedule. As Anne-Marie noted, I will be presenting a report at the May 20th meeting regarding our options in moving forward and including additional committee meetings to our schedule, including Committee of Adjustment and Committee of the Whole. So to answer your question, our next meeting will be May 20th at 4:00.
Okay, then the May 20th that appeared, that's been changed.
Correct. So I amended the times to reflect the newly adopted schedule to 4:00.
Okay, I guess. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barfoot. Is there any other questions? There's no other add-ons to the agenda other than going in camera? Okay. Brittany, just so I make sure I get this very clear and doing it in a proper fashion, I'm going to read the motion to go in camera, ask for a mover and seconder to put it on the floor, vote on it, and then we're going to take a 5-minute break to come out of our council meeting and then go into our closed session. Is that correct?
That is correct. So just to clarify, members of council, I have forwarded an invitation to all of you to enter into our closed session meeting in a separate meeting site, just to ensure confidentiality when it comes to live streaming and such. So we will take the motion. The mayor will call for a 5-minute recess. During that 5-minute recess, it is the expectation that you all leave this meeting and join the closed session meeting. Following adjournment of closed session, we will then move back into this meeting site to finish the meeting in open session while facilitating live streaming. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I do if I can, Britt.
Okay,
Go
ahead.
Councillor Cope. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. I'm just thinking about Paul. I don't. Was he planning on coming for the closed session? In which case, I believe it was scheduled for 6. Might we need to notify him that it's starting early, or did maybe you received regrets from him that he wasn't coming to that part of it either?
That is correct. Councillor Paul Sutherland is otherwise occupied this afternoon, so he will not be attending.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. So the Council of Township of Georgian Bluffs move into closed session at. I don't have a clock in here, Brittany.
It is 5:12 p.m.
5:12 p.m. in the council chambers with the interim CEO and acting clerk remaining in the virtual room to discuss 3 personal matters about different identifiable individuals. Do I have somebody to move the motion, please?
Carol Barfoot.
Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by?
Grant.
I'll second.
Second by Councillor Pringle. Is there any discussion on the motion before us?
I just have a question for Brittany.
Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, I hope I don't get lost trying to get back into the next meeting. So we will use the same route to get into the in-camera?
Correct. So in your team's calendar, you will see a closed session invitation directly following this council invitation. You will simply click join on that. If you have any difficulties, please feel free to give me a call during our recess.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Brittany, would you call the vote, please?
Absolutely. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland. He's absent. Keep doing that. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. So now we will close for a 5-minute break. Thanks, everybody.
I'm here.
Grant's here. Sue? Carol, are you there? Kathy?
I'm here.
Brian?
Here.
So who's missing? Carol, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so all of council are here. Brittany, are you there? You must be muted, Brittany.
My apologies. Yes, I am, and all of council is now attended for, and we are live.
Thanks, Brittany. I have a motion here that bylaw number 2020-48 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on May 6, 2020 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed to the corporation, endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I summon to move the motion to put on the floor, please?
Grant.
Moved by Councilor Pringle, second by
I'll second it.
Deputy Mayor Carlton. Any discussion on the motion? Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
I will. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Well, thanks, everybody. It's a good meeting.
We need one more motion to adjourn, please.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Barfoot.
Yep.
All in favor? Or Brittany, go ahead.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adjournment at 6:20 p.m. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland is absent. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson is absent. Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.